Okay, so I'm gonna try to quickly rank all the progressive shows on this tier list maker. Um, I have to apologize in advance for my lack of knowledge in some of these shows. I've actually haven't seen. So the shows I haven't seen, I'm just going to put at a B level just to be fair. But for the ones I've seen, I'll let you know. So we're gonna start with David Pacman show. Where could I put this one? Pacman, I'm gonna give a B. Of course, he's one of the most well-known ones, progressive news YouTubers out there. He's very well known. His show's pretty popular. Because the reason I'm not putting Pacman on an S or an A tier is his narrative about Venezuela was very one-sided. He was following the same narrative as the mainstream media, basically just talking about how terrible Maduro is, and that's it. And then he'll just leave it at that, and he'll just say, "Oh, Maduro's terrible. Maduro's terrible. Venezuela's bad." The end. Like, he wouldn't have any counter argument about how the mainstream media is lying about certain things, about the embargo, about leaving out the whole sanctions thing that was going on, how the U.S. is doing crippling sanctions on Venezuela. No, he didn't mention almost any of that, and he was just going along, and his reason was basically, "Oh, I have some friends." That's it. That's his reason. "I have some friends who were from Venezuela or live in Argentina now, my home country. And they'll tell me, Maduro's terrible." And that's it. So just this small anecdotal evidence he had. That was it. That was his whole reason for. He doesn't care about all the reporting, all the counter arguments, all the counter reports about how this coup was totally fake. He didn't talk about how fake Guaido was. Nothing. He just said, all he reported was Maduro's terrible, and that's it. So for that reason, he goes down to B tier. All right, so Democracy Now! This is a no-brainer for me. This is S tier. This is top tier journalism, in my opinion. Just great content, great interviews with great authors, with great political minds. I remember they are the first time I ever heard of the directors of Cowspiracy was through Democracy Now! And they're laying out a bunch of facts about how much water meat consumption actually wastes. It wastes more than almost anything out there. It's crazy. And yet, when the drought was happening, nobody was mentioning reducing factory farming or none of that, or meat consumption. They have Cornel West on, Noam Chomsky, a lot of great political minds. So let's actually, this one I have no idea who he is. Actually, in the comment section below, let me know. I'm gonna put him at B tier just to be fair, because that seems to be the middle ground. So I don't know who he is. Never seen his show. Destiny. I rarely watch Destiny. Reasons being that his debates are really, really long. I mean, I don't have 2.5 hours to spend just hearing people argue. That's not how I envision myself spending my time. Some people mention that he's kind of like the left-wing Ben Shapiro in the way he talks. He has this very nerdy, fast talking way. He talks really, really fast. He's like a gamer guy who crossed over into debating. He's not really my style, my speed. Although I do think he is essential to the progressive YouTube left, in that he's out there in the front lines type of guy. He's arguing and debating right wingers all the time. Like, he will go head in first to like the pit of the right wing to debate. He's not afraid to take on anybody. I mean, that's just what he does. I put him as a C tier, even though he is very essential. But he goes down C tier simply because he's been riding this centrist capitalist wave, where he's still very much in love with capitalism. He's showing signs of being a neoliberal type. He has moments where he's a true progressive as well, but he's kind of playing that neither here nor there card. He's playing the moral middle thing, which is pretty annoying in my opinion. I mean, not always annoying, but the way he's doing it, where he's just saying that we can't have we shouldn't strive for these big policy ideas. He's very romantic about corporatism and capitalism, it seems. Jamari Thomas, never really watched his show that much. I know what he's about. He's a total propagandist. I'm gonna put him D. He's just about loving Jimmy Dore all the time, who also I can't stand, and who's gonna join him right now. And he's just about Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, he's just like a propagandist, in my opinion. He's just one, you know exactly what he's going to say. You know what he thinks about everything. It's just that Jimmy Dore's great and Tulsi Gabbard's great at the end. Jimmy Dore is very much a propagandist. He makes the left look bad in many ways. But Jimmy Dore on the D tier. He's problematic for many reasons. As Sam Sear likes to put it, he spoils the whole well, or something like that. He makes the left look bad. I mean, stuff that he was doing when he was harassing Francesca Fiorentini on Twitter, on her direct messages. That's cringy. His whole narrative about Syria is like the U.S. pretty much is doing everything horrible in Syria. Now, I don't fully disagree with some of that. I just don't think it's as one-sided as he's putting it, that everything's just being staged to get rid of Assad. I think that's ridiculous if you consider the fact that the U.S. could overthrow Assad when they want, to be honest. It was figures like Obama who decided against it, but to Jimmy Dore, he's continuously putting this false equivalence of a corrupt Obama with a corrupt Trump, or a corrupt right-wing president. Yes, they're both corrupt. That doesn't mean they're the same. That's nonsense. Jimmy Dore and his fans pretty much get rid of critical thinking. They just throw it straight out the window. Can't have any nuances. It's either this or that. It's two extremes, and that's all they think. Very rigid black and white thinking of this holier than thou, self-righteous way of thinking of voting, where you have to vote this angelical figure inside. And the angelical figure is Tulsi Gabbard at the moment, from what I understand. Yet she considers herself a war hawk. She considers torture. She's not even remotely the most progressive in voting record. She's like in the middle, somewhere around there. She obviously her past, she was against homosexual rights at a certain point. But even let's say I forgive her on that. She still has some connections to Modi, apparently the national government. She's sympathetic in a way to the Hindu nationalists. These are just things. These are just things to consider. And if you even bring that up, you're apparently quote unquote smearing her, and then You know, they just paint you as a shill or a you know, a sellout, as Jimmy Dore likes to point. So it's kind of silly that they pretend to be the most progressive. They're not even voting for the most progressive candidate. They're not even promoting the most progressive candidate. He's a guy. He's very much in the same vein as Trump. He seems to be like a narcissist in a way. It's just all about him all the time. It seems he makes things about him a lot. He's a big baby. He complains about. I remember he's complaining about Tulsi Gabbard going on the Young Turks, which was the show he was with for a long time and working for a long time. I don't understand why he's so salty about little petty things like that. All right, so there's that. Hassan Piker. Never really watched the show, to be honest. So I'm gonna put him in B. I know people have said things about his show, negative things. Just have to watch it for myself. You know, you can't always take people's word for everything. But because I have never really watched the show, I'll put him in the middle. I have no idea what this is. LTMB. No idea. I'll put it in the middle. I don't want to take up too much time. Michael Brooks show. Now, Michael Brooks show. I've seen it a couple times, but to me, Michael Brooks show seems to be just kind of like the leftover of the Majority Report. It's like, oh, Majority Report's over. Here's overtime with the Michael Brooks. You know, it's a little more loose, a little more. What is the word? Relaxed environment, I think. While the Majority Report they're a little more getting straight to the news. I think the Michael Brooks show comes out more as like a conversation type show. Progressive voice. Now we really needed the progressive voice in this day and age. I'm gonna go and give him an A. We needed somebody to mediate and cover things the way TMZ does. They like to call progressive voice the progressive TMZ. But the show is addictive. I think maybe in the future I'm gonna get tired of it, but at this point I'm pretty into it. It's a pretty good show because he really gives you the inside scoop of who's saying what, who's having disagreements on what. And he actually he's a young kid, yet he's kind of like a prodigy. He really knows his stuff. I think he's got a lot of logic down in the way he decides on where he sides with politics. So I think he has a big time future in him. He just needs to grow more. Maybe, you know, start having guests at some point. I'm not sure, but I know right now he has a good niche audience. It's a good show. I like what he has a lot to say. I like the way he covered the Sam Cedar and Jimmy Dore big separation with those two progressive sides. He did a good job covering that. Rebel Headquarters, I believe, is part of the Young Turks. I never really watched it, so I'm just gonna put it in the middle. Now this is I believe Redacted Tonight. Redacted Tonight I think is a really good show. Although I think I have to say the big flaw of Redacted Tonight is that it tries to be funny and it is so unfunny. It's not even funny how unfunny it is. And it's like this weird, like, fake laughter, fake audience almost. They're just like, I don't know, the laughter and the jokes are so forced that's creepy. It comes off as creepy. Like, why? Why are you pretending to be funny all the time? Like, it's, you know, I mean, some jokes are okay, to be honest. I don't know why that's the strategy of the show, because the show tackles some real issues. It's got some real journalism going on. It has some really important takes on stuff that the U.S. Corporate media will definitely not cover. Very important show for that reason, but they kind of ruin it with the intensely forced comedy forum they have. Like just loosen up a little bit on the comedy and I don't know. It's just there's something weird about like having to listen to this important news and having to get over the terrible jokes like the bad forced comedy. All right, so I'll put it in the middle. Definitely doesn't belong anywhere in the lower tiers. It's too good of a show for that. But Ring of Fire, don't watch too much of it. I've seen it before. I've seen some good takes. Ring of Fire is one of the shows I watch to really, really get a verbal assault fix on how terrible Trump is. Because I think the apologist left is like people who are constantly on the left are constantly apologizing for Republicans to a point that they think Democrats are just as bad, or Democratic voters are just as bad as Republican voters. That's like Jimmy Dore and probably Jamar Thomas. They're part of the apologist left. So I think Ring of Fire is good to shut up the apologist left every now and then to make them realize, yes, Trump is pretty fucking terrible. And that's the reason I like Ring of Fire. Only for those moments, to be honest. So then there's the Majority Report. The Majority Report, super essential show. I'm gonna have to put S tier. I think Sam Cedar is right now is the leader of what I call the rational progressives. Ones who aren't just constantly apologizing for Trump and the right wing all the time, like the D tier is. The rational progressives are like, yes, we're progressive. We're gonna point out how terrible the right is. We know it's a war going on, and it's not about them joining the moral middle. Like the apologist left tries to play the moral middle card all the time. I think Sam Cedar's greatest moment was taking down Jimmy Dore at the height of his popularity, absolutely destroying him at a debate. And also, he's as funny as he is intelligent. He deserves S tier. Kyle Kowinski is a tough one because he is as important, I think, as the Majority Report, and he seems to be even more influential. But however, he dabbles in the apologist left way of thinking. I'm gonna give him a pass because he's done far too good. I mean, from what I understand, he's from what Joe Rogan says. I mean, who knows if we can believe Joe Rogan, though. But what he says is that Kyle Kowinski is the one who set up the Bernie interview. So, just for that alone, he belongs in A tier, if not S tier. The reason I'm not putting him S tier is because, like I said, he dabbles in the apologist left strategy of just saying, oh, Republicans aren't so bad. They're all going to come on our side one day. Like, I'm kind of tired of that mentality from the left, that thinking that we're going to be saved by Republicans just turning into leftists, to me, my strategy is, let's go for the non-voters, the 106 million eligible voters who don't vote. Let's go for them. We don't have to spend so much time trying to convince the right to turn left. Like you're gonna get some of them to cross over, but I think the amount that cross over that really matters in elections isn't so big, to be honest. To me, that 106 million. Anyway, my point is that he doesn't really bring up that strategy. He's kind of more like, oh, let's evangelize the right type mentality. So that's the only reason I don't think he's on the S tier. But other than that, it's a pretty great show. I watch him for. He's also kind of repetitive too. like he's also very unfunny, and he thinks he's really funny. I could tell. Problem is he's kind of like in some ways kind of a narcissistic too, in that he's just him all the time. There's never any like extra input from anybody else. He never has any interviews, or he doesn't take questions or callers. Really, he's just like sitting there. He likes to fancy himself as the Rush Limbaugh of the left, which I don't know why you would take after that format, but whatever. But other than that, I mean, he's got great moments, obviously. I'm not sure what Jay Iadarola hosts. I don't watch it very much. He's kind of like Jay Iadarola, I argue, is the best of the Young Turks, besides Cenk. He's very, very rational person that I mean, when he has to destroy a right winger, he'll do it meticulously. However, his show's kind of, I don't know, his show's kind of like repeating, regurgitating the same stuff you'll get from the Young Turks, so it's almost like it seems unnecessary at a certain point. The Humanist Report, I can't say I have any input. I never watch it. I just know, actually I'm gonna put him in C tier. I just know that I've tried to watch them because I don't know, I tried. I gave it a chance, and there's something super uninteresting about the host, his delivery. There's too many guys like him, I think. I think his name is Mike Figueroa. There's too many dudes that look and talk like him on the left, and even on the right. I think there's just too many dudes like have that delivery style, and I don't know. Something turned me off completely from the show, so I'm gonna put it at S tier. The Rational National. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that, for putting the Humanist Report on C, because I think he does good content too. Rational National, for now, I gotta say S tier. He didn't start out that way. He was a big Jimmy Dore fanboy, and then eventually he changed his tune. He stopped being a propagandist for the Green Party the way Jimmy Dore is, and he started becoming more rational, as they say, and he started. I just like his takes. He's very concise. His videos aren't freaking like crazy long, like the problem with Progressive Voice now is that he just talks for like 10 minutes before you even watch a video, and it's like pointless. Like, why does he have to talk that long? The Rational National, he kind of does it in a way where it's very concise, and he just gets straight to the point. His takes have been well sharpened, have been well crafted now to this point where he's just like not wasting any time. I get what I want right away from his clips, and his takes are he's not playing the just vote Green Party, the Democrats are pure evil card, the way the apologist left does. This guy, I have no idea who he is, so I ran out of space in the B tier, so I'm gonna start putting him in a C tier. TBTV, no idea. 2IT Nation, I never really watched it, so I have no idea what the heck's on it. I know it's the extension of the Young Turks, but... And then finally, the Young Turks, obviously, historically speaking, they would be S tier because they're the ones who paved the way for all these guys. But like, if we're talking about now, I would probably put them... It's hard to say because I kind of fell out of love with watching them some years back. Even before 2016, I stopped watching him for a long time. It got kind of old. The way their takes on certain things were, just like with Kyle Kulinski, got kind of old. But I'll put him A tier simply because at this moment, they're too important of a show to dismiss at this point, because we're getting near an election. Cenk's I think Cenk is still like the best commentator politically on on how the games of politics is played. Him and Kyle, I think, are the smartest ones about that. Like they know, they make predictions, and they're pretty on top of their predictions. Cenk is he's got really good predictions. I noticed. I mean, he was super wrong about the RussiaGate thing, of course, but other than that, he was the one who predicted that Trump was gonna win, just like Michael Moore did. Uh, he knows how to talk about the Republican Party better than anybody too, because he used to be a right winger himself, and he has like that insight. Like he knows the way they strategize. He knows the way they move, the way they play the chess game of politics, and I think nobody else has that more than him. So I still watch TOT for that reason, to hear Cenk's takes on on the Republicans, what they're gonna do next, or why they're doing certain things. So there you go.